Hello and good evening. It is I, Disco Soup, returning to you for the 19th time. It is day 19 of the 2025 Character Creation Challenge, as hosted by TARDIS Captain of RPG.net. TARDIS Captain is also a blogger and runs a very cool Discord, so I encourage you to check out their content. As you can see, today we are checking out Hulks and Horrors, a science fiction role-playing game by John S. Barry III. Now, Hulks and Horrors, I've had in my collection for quite a long time. The game's about 12 years old, and I have not ever played it, but I love it. I liked making characters for it when it came out, and I kind of like, well, more than kind of, I like its space travel system, which we'll get into a little bit of that going forward. But the game itself was, before the release of White Star, which kind of then became the de facto OSR option, I think, or perhaps Stars Without Number. I think this came out with before Stars Without Number. This was the OSR go-to, I feel like. It's not talked about very much, but it was certainly an option that was present, and it was pretty great. So, we are going to make a character, show you some of the cool stats that you can have, and I mean the classes, which are pretty cool. They'll look familiar in an interesting way, I suppose. So, first off, we're going to roll 3d6. Strict. Okay, we've got... Ugh, oh my gosh. Sorry, not doing that. Nor that. Good grief, what is with this? I gotta have balance in the Force, people. Okay. Alright. Sorry to wimp out on you like that, but I can't have a character with a 3 in an attribute. That's just ridiculous. Okay, 12, 15, and I will say I would not expect that of any player at my table. So, Hulks and Horrors, dude. Int Wiz Jaw. Okay, so it's 3d6 in order in this game. So let's see what we've got. 12, 15, 15. Nine intelligence. Oh. 15 wisdom and 11 charisma. Okay, we can work with this. Oops. Now, how does this game handle mods? This is it, more or less. These aren't the roll mods, but are the bonuses you get to things. So at 15 we get a +1 to hit. Nothing really for our AC. Oh, we have 12, excuse me. We don't get any bonuses. 15. Yeah, no bonuses there. No bonuses for AC, but we do get a +1 ranged to hit and +1 HP. No int charge. Bit of wisdom for Psi 2. Okay. And we speak one language. So, or do we have Psi 11? We do. We speak 2 languages. Okay. So, let's see. We're probably going to be a Dex build, maybe a Wisdom build, based on the classes. Oh yeah, stat checks are pretty easy. Roll under your stat if it's not combat. And then this is a rule I like to use too in games that I create. If I'm using a roll under the stat, it's where you roll under your stat and whoever has the higher value without having gone over their stat is the one who wins. Classes. So, here are your classes. You got a pilot, a scientist, which we're not really built for. We don't have good intelligence. A scientist is kind of like I guess you'd say a sci-fi version of a spellcaster. They use little gadgets. A soldier requires good strength. A psyker we could do. We have decent wisdom. Or you can choose an alien class. This is one where species count as class. Hovering squid, which is what it sounds like. An omega reticulin, which is like an amoeba, and I think they like change their color to talk. And then a bear man, who is, again, what it sounds like. So, pilots should have high dex and good int. Nah. No, we're not going to do a scientist either. Soldier. Psyker, maybe. Okay. We'll put psychers in the maybe column, because I do want to check out, again, it's probably been a few years since I've cracked open this PDF. Melee, ranged. What are their abilities again? Ambidextrous, so they don't get penalty for multi-wielding and can do 2 basic tasks at a single time. They can see everywhere, so they can't be surprised. They can grapple. And, yeah. So, kind of like martial artists, I guess, you'd say. Have to have strength less than 16, which we do, dex 7+. Okay, we'll put that in the maybe column as well. I don't think we're going to be built for the bears, because they need a good strength rating, but I might be with the omega reticulin. Charisma less than 16. Intelligence 7+, which we've got. Yeah, they use the same scientist rules, and that really requires intelligence, so we're probably going to go with the psyker. But omega reticulins are pretty neat, and they power their own stuff. So we're going to make a psyker. Melee, range to hit. We do get the +1 bonus to that from our dexterity, so... but not from our class yet. Hit 0. You'd think I'd never touched a keyboard before. Okay, HD 1d6. Rank initiate. Okay. Saving throw +1 wisdom. Which looks pretty good to me. So, special abilities, Psychic Mastery. The Psyker is chiefly a wielder of the psionic arts. By channeling their pure will through the lens of the mind, they can perform great feats, but the effort is difficult and puts great strain on the mind. Psychers can call on their psi, a well of internal will, to fuel their powers, and must concentrate to effect it towards employing their powers. Each casting of a power costs a base amount of psi, and some can be boosted by spending additional points at a greater risk of failure. To cast a power, determine the cost of casting and subtract it from your psi reserve, then make a concentration check. Subtract the power cost from your wisdom, and try to roll below that number on the d20. Once a psi is expended, the psyker must have a full night's rest before their psi is restored. So, for instance, we've got a psi of 15. If we want to use a power that costs 2 psi, we're going to spend all of our psi, because we start with 2 for having a psi of 15, or a wisdom of 15, and then subtract that cost from our score. So we'd be rolling 13 or under. So you have a 65% chance of making it. It's not abusive, and it's pretty... Oh, we have a psi of 4, too, because we get plus from that. Pushing the limits. Use one psi fully is an exhausting experience, leaving the mind drained, if not the body. However, in times of great peril, it's necessary to call for that last bit of will, albeit at a greater danger to oneself. Okay, so you could probably cast from hit points? Yeah, basically. But it's not a 1-for-1 ratio, it's a 1d6-for-1 ratio. Woof. Okay. So, psi 2, or psi 4. Powers. We have 2 powers, on which we can call. Mind and body, in order to learn the discipline needed to control the hidden powers of the mind. Psykers also practice control over their bodies, practicing ceaselessly in agility and acrobatics. Psykers get a +1 to their dex for the purpose of checks to jump or perform acrobatics feats. Okay, so that's good. So that raises our chance of success on acrobatics from 75% to 80%. Let's see, what's next? Now that we've got our class. Science? No, we're using Psyker stuff. Psykers and Bearmen have mastered the focus of the mind. Yeah, okay. We know this. Saving throws. Okay, science programs. This is the... Okay, psychic powers. So, psychic powers are different in that they don't have a level, but you can fuel them with additional power. So, let's see. An ego lance, crushing someone's mind. Kind of cool. A mind trick. Probably like a Jedi mind trick. Force choke. Maybe. Telepathic reflexes. Now, okay, so telepathic reflexes, this is an interesting way of wording it. You get a bonus -2 AC and +1 to hit for 4 rounds, +1 per Psyker level. So at rank 1, you'd get a 5-round bonus. That's not bad. Base cost 2, yeesh, +1 per additional round to a maximum of 6. Now, I would rule, if this was my table, because it to me seems a little unclear, that this +1 per additional round is not the same as the +1 duration for your Psyker level, but rather is something you could pay for beyond that. So, pyrokinetic assault. I'm a Fiostata. A twisted Fiostata. Comprehend language. Blech. Telekinetic push, maybe. Sense of motion, mental shield. Levitation leap. Maybe. Telecommunicate, maddening shout. Oh, make everyone go insane. Mind blank. Oh, become invisible. Let's see. Let's do Ego Lance, because I like the idea of being able to incapacitate someone without hurting them, and especially because then they might not be able to say what happened to them. Yeah, let's say telekinetic push. That looks cool. Okay. So that's that. And then equipment. You know, we're not going to get ourselves any equipment right now. We do get 3d6 times 100 credits with which to work, so I guess we'll look at that. 800 credits. I personally don't necessarily like to bring all my gear to the table at once when I start playing, because I find it kind of nice to wait until you know a little bit about the campaign. Armor, shields, grenades, drugs. So, this game, I'd like to maybe go over a little bit of it with you all, because, one, it doesn't take very long to make a character, but I'd also like to maybe give it a little bit of a promotion or a fair shake, because I feel like it's one that people just don't know very well. So here are some things that make it really cool. In like ship combat, the ship combat I feel like shines. It's generally on foot. It's, your same D&D or whatever. Got your taco there and all that. Spaceships, you can start with whatever ship you want, and in fact, we'll make ourselves a spaceship. Okay, so you can have a mortgaged one, a used one, or an inherited one. Mortgage means you start heavily in debt, but you get a better ship. Used, same thing. You start in debt, not as much, and the ship isn't as good. Or inherited, it's free. You don't have to pay for it, but it's got its quirks. And I like to do the inherited. Okay. So, inherited is also, the cool thing about it is it's the only random option. And if you know me, you know I like random creation of anything. So, roll 1d6. Oh yeah, that's right. With used, it can be random too, but you get more of a choice of like which of two results to check from. So, roll 1d6. I apologize if you can hear my dogs. They kind of suck today, but they're usually pretty good. So we're getting a Class 6 ship hull, which is nice. However, instead of 80 hull, we start with 68, which is fine. Pardon me. I don't live alone, but sometimes it's like, you hope people can help you out when you're streaming. My bad. One moment. So, to explain, there are a couple of Chiweenies, and they have the temperament of Chihuahuas and the insecurity level of Dachshunds. So, 200 yards, weighs 600 tons, and it normally costs 500,000 credits. So, that's pretty good right now to start with. Step 2 is armor. Inherited. To determine the type of armor, roll 1d4. Subtract 1d6 times type from AP armor points. Okay. So, even if you get... And I appreciate this. Oops, d4. 2. Even if you get the best results, you're still not getting a perfect ship. So you can't just say, I want an inherited one and I'm going to luck out. Like, you see I did there, but we also happen to start with like 15% fewer armor. Okay, so 4, 2. So we've got type 2 armor, subtract 1d6 times type from AP. Okay. 6. Okay, so we have an AC of 8. And we have -6, 34 AP. Okay. Gosh, 834. Okay. And this adds 100 tons to the mass and 40,000 to the cost. Gosh, where is it? Thank you. And I lost my train of thought. My bad. 100 tons, 40,000 credits. Main engines. Okay. The engine and the space travel rules in this are, I think, really fascinating. And there's another game, and we'll probably be making characters for it in the next few days. But White Star, you may be familiar with it because it's a very popular OSR sci-fi RPG made by a pretty cool guy named James Bond. James likes to let people use their own imagination for space travel. So, since there usually are not any hyperspace rules, I use something very similar. I basically bolt on the hyperspace rules from Hulks and Horrors to White Star. So here's how we get our engines. We roll 1d3 for type. And that's it. Because, here, 1. Oh, we're a slow hunk of junk. 1 AU an hour. So, basically, at Sublight, we get to go 1/10 of the speed of light. So it would take us 1 hour to get from Earth to the Sun. Not bad. But you see here this subspace multiplier times 4. So in this game, it uses hyperspace routes, kind of like Star Wars does, where you can't really navigate between systems at will. You have to follow a path. Here, this multiplier increases the amount of time, or determines the amount of time, rather, that it takes. So a route that is supposed to have distance 5 would have like distance 20 here. And so it would take you much longer. Whereas these powerful engines, the Type 5s, which are usually only available, I think, on military ships, actually half that time. So a Type 5 is 8 times faster than a Type 1. But at least we're not paying for it. Oh, man. It's my brain. Okay. Hyperspace. 4 sublight 1 AU per hour. And how many tons is that? 50 tons. Okay. And again, we're not paying for this, but I just kind of like to record the cost of things. So it's sturdy for an inherited ship, but it's slow as molasses. Weapons, you can get beam weapons, you can get like rail guns, you can get missiles, and the interesting thing about them is that the beam weapons, like the phasers, hit automatically. It kind of makes things more streamlined. So, roll 1d4 for the -1 for the number of weapons, and 1d3 for the type and model of weapon. During any rolls, that would place the total number of weapon hardpoints over the hull limit. Hardpoints. Now, okay, let's see. What's the hull limit? Each weapon type is available in Mark 1 through 4 models. Okay, each ship hull comes with a number of hardpoints equal to its class. That's what I would have assumed if I hadn't found it. So we get 6 hardpoints. Beam weapons use up 1 hardpoint. Missile and mass drivers consume 2 due to ammo requirements. Okay, so let's see. 1d4 minus 1. Okay, they got 1 weapon. Cool. So, 1d3 for type and model of weapon. So, yeah, like 1 is going to be beams, 2 is going to be mass drivers, 3 is going to be missiles. And then type is mass driver, and model is Mark 1. Okay. So, yeah. Not great, but... Three 3d8. Mass 60 tons. Cost 10,000. At least ammo's cheap. Okay, so we're going to be doing far more damage than like a laser equipped ship, but it's just a bit more costly to run. Not terrible, because as far as an inherited ship goes, we could have been, had a laser. So, thrusters. In addition to your ship's main engine, it's also equipped with maneuvering thrusters, and this is why I've been keeping track of the tonnage here. These thrusters are what turn and steer the ship, yada yada. It's different than previous steps where you selected a model. The total tonnage of all the components so far. Divide the resulting number by 100, rounding up. That's your mass rating. So, 150, 210, 810. So, 8 rounded up 9. Mass is 9. Okay, easy peasy. Thrusters are bought by thrust rating, which measures how much they can divert to the craft. So, let's see. For every point, yeah, you get a penalty to your AC if you don't have enough thrust compared to your mass. A lander ship, we don't have to worry about it. Oh. We're an orbiter, so it doesn't really matter. Thrust rating costs a base of 20,000 credits per point, and no additional mass to the vehicle. So, we're inherited, roll 1d6 minus 3, add the result to the ship's mass rating. The result is its thrust rating. So, we have a 50% chance of getting a penalty. Ooh, alright. Moment of truth, folks. Hey, we don't. Alright. So, thrust is 10. Booyah. Just like that. Which means... for every thrust point higher than the mass, they get minus 1 bonus to AC. For every thrust... yeah. Okay. So... AC is now 7. Not bad. Not bad at all. We could have ended up with an AC of 5. Okay. Additional systems. Let's see. Number of basic systems, life support, yada yada. Crew quarters for class times 2 people, which is 12. So yeah, we want to know that. So we could boldly go with 12 people. Cockpit, navigation, communications, sensors, that function out to 10 AU. They're 20% of the hull. Another 20% is, power and weapons and all that. So the remaining 60% of mass can thus be filled with add-on systems. Add-on systems do not add mass, but they take up mass within the hull. So we have 600 tons, which means we have 360 tons with which to work or to leave as cargo space. We get 1d6 systems for free. Okay. So it's probably going to have just a decent hull rating. Yeah, we get 2 systems for free. Okay. Any 2 of these, and then its tonnage. Water, waste recycler, automat, 2-month supply of food to begin with, but you can put up to a year's in it. A full galley, artificial gravity, escape pods, a shuttle bay, a fighter bay, a teleport bay. We could do 2 fighters, that would be interesting. Countermeasures, radar flare, sandblasters, a cloaking device. Oh, we could do a trajectory. Yeah, let's do a targeting system so that we can hit better. And then an automat. It's just so, it's not going to be fun, but it is what it is. We've got enough food, and we can hit what we're aiming to shoot for. So, ship combat, yeah. Everyone's got kind of their own little crew actions to do, and again, beam weapons hit automatically if you're within range. I really like that. Sample things. And then, so, the thrust of the game is not necessarily interstellar warfare, but you do want to be able to defend yourself. You play scouts finding anything valuable out in sectors. You buy a claim, and then you hope you get something good. Generating the system contents. This is kind of bananas, and if I were going to do it, I would build myself a spreadsheet to handle things, because I am really good at spreadsheets, and I'm actually working on a book that shows you how to use a spreadsheet in your RPG to automate things in a really fun way. I've even made spreadsheets that play games. So, but like just briefly, you would go generate a star type, boom, 1d8 types, including black hole, which is awesome. Determine the number and distance of objects. So how many objects? They're going to have 2d6 objects, and then their distance between them. So you're averaging 7 stellar objects in a solar system. Determine the types of each of those objects. Each of them can be a terrestrial planet, a gas giant, a dwarf planet, a belt, a deep space station, or an artificial world. From there, okay, this again, we're drilling down. Remember, you're going to do this thing 7 times, okay, for each object. What type it is, and then its subtype, and then its atmosphere. Also its gravity. Okay. Then, what? Do they have moons? Terrestrial and dwarf planets have up to 1d6 minus 1 moons. Gas giants can have 3d20 moons. Okay? For terrestrial planets only. So you don't have to do this for the 60 moons orbiting a gas giant. But for the few that are going to be orbiting terrestrial planets, not even dwarf planets, roll 1d4. On 1, it's interesting, and you treat it like it's a planet or a dwarf planet and generate whatever's interesting about it. Then you go back and check to see if there's life on it using these bonuses. Is there no life? Well, maybe there were aliens there before. Let's find that out. If there were, what did they have? Interesting details. Yup. You'll see in a second. So this is the type of prior civilizations that might have lived there, and these are some possible interesting details on a D100. Cool stuff. I'd like to see more, though, because of the sheer volume of planets that you're generating. Ruins and Wrecks, this is kind of a delving rule set, and I will say that I found it gives you enough information that you could probably play this solo. It was written well before the solo RPG boom. People, weren't even talking about that, but you get enough to where, okay, you can get it done. I haven't really been reading the flavor of things to you, but just know that it's essentially Star Wars meets Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, or Star Wars meets White Dwarf in its level of comedy. And then you get all sorts of artifacts, tons of monsters. Overall, this is a really good game and toolbox book, and I recommend you pick it up. Also, just a little update, I was able to do a lot of work on my upcoming game, Ruin Borg. If you haven't heard of that yet, I'll show you there. That's the cover. Ruin Borg, Mars Belongs Dead. Adventures in Fallen Barsoom. It's going to be cool. I've got so much done on it. Right now I'm putting together the art. Right here, this is a stock. This is a couple different stock pieces mashed together from the Forge. And I really do like their work. I like their vibe. I will probably use several pieces of theirs. I might even draw some of my own. So we'll see. And I may be able to get some older public domain art and apply like screen tones and other cool effects to it, because it's based on pulp science fiction from over 100 years ago. So going for that retro look, feel with a bit of modern dread to it. Anyways, we will see you all tomorrow, and I hope you have a great night.